So welcome to everybody to our November meeting. So I'm Janet Lawry, for those of you who don't know, and I'm the Programme Manager at Bees for Development. Beekeeping has got a lot of attributes that make it a powerful livelihood opportunity for women. Yet we know through our own analysis that it's not always easy for women to take advantage of the opportunities that beekeeping can offer. And if we look at the rates of adoption, it's still skewed towards men. And if you look at sort of the scale of the benefit, again, men seem to benefit more in sort of in crude terms. So this is a really interesting topic for us, is to really understand how we can promote and leverage and make it possible for women to benefit more from beekeeping. There are, as I said, it's got a number of attributes that make it accessible in terms of it's not so time consuming as other livelihood activities. It's not, bees don't need daily attention, for example. Today we're going to hear from Phionah Birungi from TUNADO. So TUNADO is the Uganda National Apiculture Development Organization. And I think I'll leave it to Phionah to introduce TUNADO more fully. I can also see sitting next to Phionah is her colleague, Hope Agwang. So welcome to you both. Phionah has worked for TUNADO for 8 years, and she spearheaded TUNADO's strategic gender review last year. And as an outcome of that, and also through the funding opportunity provided by Hub Cymru Africa, we've been able to work together on a project in the north of Uganda to help make beekeeping more accessible to women. And so Phionah is going to tell us about that. So welcome, Phionah, and welcome to everybody else. And we look forward to hearing what Phionah's got to say and for people's contributions and questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet, for welcoming us. Most welcome to everyone else, everyone on the call. My name is Phionah Birungi, like Janet has said. I work as the program manager for TUNADO, and TUNADO is an umbrella body for beekeepers in Uganda. We have a national presence. We represent 1,200,000 beekeepers scattered across the country. So we are mandated by government through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries to coordinate the beekeeping sector on their behalf. We have done that for 17 years now. And we are not about to stop. We are continuing to grow. So thank you for the opportunity given to me to share with you the work we have done under the Be the Voice project that we are implementing with Bees for Development in West Nile, and which is funded by Hub Cymru. Today I have gotten the right pronunciation. It has always been difficult for me. Yeah, so I don't know, can you see my screen? Okay, thank you. So our project, in short, we call it...
Don't mean to interrupt. Can you put it on slideshow? Yeah.
Okay. I hope it can, okay, that is fine. Thank you. Yeah, so in the project in brief, we call it Be the Voice, but its full name is basically economically empowering women through beekeeping in Uganda. So we thank you for the platform given to us to share our lessons from the field of implementing this project. It is coming to close to a year. So why did we think of Be the Voice project? When you look at the pictures, basically, they give you just a small glimpse of the life of a woman. This we call it a woman's world. You have all these activities that need their attention, and So that means they are left with limited time really to attend so many trainings or engage in many economic activities, because most economic activities definitely need time. So by the time they are done with collecting firewood, which is far from home, they are fetching water, they are taking care of the family, there's little time left for anything else. So their lives rotate around care work. And of course, we also have systemic barriers that limit women and girls' participation in any meaningful economic activity. For example, especially, those barriers vary in intensity from region to region, but generally the entire northern Uganda, a woman can never own land. Other areas, there is some small possibility, but the greater north, they say the only piece of land that a woman can claim is where her grave will be. That is the only land she can claim. So, and we know that most economic activities can only be done on land. They cannot inherit. Even if they are widowed, they are not entitled to the land that they are left with. They must negotiate with their male children to be allowed, for example, to do any economic activity on the land that is left to them by their husbands. And we also know that those that have moved against the grain and participated in beekeeping do not fully benefit, because they will participate, like all agriculture activities, they provide free labor. They dig, they take care of the crops or the animals, but at harvesting time, it is a common practice that women are not good negotiators in the market. So the responsibility of marketing is left to their spouses or their parents, and then they wait for whatever is left over that is left at home. The rest, they have no they have no control over it, basically. So that itself demotivates them from participating. So that was our motivation for coming up with the Be the Voice project. And what was its goal, or what is its goal? We want to contribute to the reduction of poverty and promoting gender equality through economically empowering women in Uganda. So this project is in one district called Adjumani in the West Nile part of Uganda. And we want, at the end of the 1 year, we want to see an increase in the level of benefit that women gain from participating in the honey and beeswax value chain in Uganda. And we also want to see 10 females who are employed, in gainful, waged employment in Uganda. And what have we achieved so far? We had targeted 110 women. So far, we have been able to recruit 118. We had targeted that by the end of the project, they should have collectively made 560 beehives. So far, we are at 491, and very hopeful that we are going to meet our target before the project ends. And we had also hoped that by the end of the project, each participant should have at least 5. On average, everyone has 4. And then when we started the project, we had anticipated that it should be a women's only project with no men. But when we reached the ground, we actually realized that the power is held by the men. If you do not involve them, we will not make any progress. So we had to bring men on board. So we brought on board 56 men, and they have equally made 205 beehives. So at least they have shown a willingness to work with the women, but also have participated. Because there are some who might say, it is okay, go ahead and do your activity, but I will not participate. But at least these ones have also participated, which is which we find as good. So which approach did we use to make sure we deliver our project. We used the bee champion model. Basically, the bee champion model, we look at females. In this case, we were looking at a female who has started some level of beekeeping, improve their capacity, and then task them to look for other females around them, 10 other females around them. So this one in a big blue circle is the bee champion. They look for 10 others. Then we bring the apiary masters, or what we call the mistresses. They come and teach the bee champion. Then the bee champion goes and teaches the other 10 auxiliary beekeepers. So that is how we do the trainings. Then in reverse, the same model is used. The auxiliary beekeepers bring their bee products to the bee champion, and this bee champion then sells their honey to a rural transformation center. So in this case, the rural transformation center that we are working with is Jeffina Honey, that is also owned by a female. And these bee champions, as they collect bee products from their auxiliary beekeepers, they earn a commission. So they get to keep their own bees, but they also earn a commission for the RTC that they are collecting honey for. And so that itself reduces the transaction costs of the RTC, or the Rural Transformation Center, but it also gives them that extra income, which is motivating for them to continue in the value chain. So even after the project, it should be self-sustaining because it is based on business principles. So then the RTC does the honey processing and marketing. So our work with Bee Champion, we have seen that it facilitates peer learning and sharing of human resources. Like I said, you have one Bee Champion, because in this project, we are targeting 10 Bee Champions, and each Bee Champion with 10 auxiliary beekeepers. So when the Bee Champion has learned how to keep bees and they have improved their apiary, it becomes a learning center. So when the other auxiliary beekeepers come to the learning center for the Bee Champion, they learn and then go and implement on their own apiaries. Then, of course, that itself is a source of employment. It is informal, but people are earning from it. At harvesting season, they should be able to earn from their bee products. But already the Bee Champions, even before the season, they are able to earn because of that monetary incentive attached to that position. They go beyond the 10 that have been attached to them to collect honey. The women who are employed as coordinators, like I already said, they earn a commission on the bulked honey, making it more sustainable. Then we have the apiary mistresses and extension services who are attached to the Bee Champion. They are TUNADO staff, but who are attached to the RTC, and their work majorly focuses on the Bee Champions. So these are girls. You can see one of them on her motorcycle. They are basically role models. They inspire women, other females. First of all, there are some parts of Uganda where it is unheard of for a female to ride a motorcycle, even a bicycle. So when you see one riding a motorcycle, it is a sign of empowerment. And the other girls within the rural communities, they look up to them. They want to be like them. So like, I want to study and also become an apiary master or mistress. Previously, it was male dominated. I think actually last year, about the other 2020, we had only 2 female apiary masters because we recruit young girls below 26 years of age. And beekeeping is done in rural communities. So most of them, they are not so willing to move to rural areas which are far from their homes, because it is not a guarantee that the community where you're going to work, you'll find girls who qualify to be an apiary master. because we need someone with a minimum of a certificate in beekeeping, going certificate diploma, or even a degree in forestry or agriculture or something. So we couldn't find them. And at 26, some of the girls are already married. So when you deploy them to the field, they are not willing to move, or their spouses say, no, you cannot move. So right now, we have 13 young women in our workforce as apiary masters, and all in waged employment. And on average, each earns about 196 pounds per month. And then apart from the bee champions and the apiary masters, we also made sure that girls' methodology is mainstreamed in all our work, because we want to take a negotiation approach. We do not have the luxury of being defiant. We can only negotiate. If you want the women to benefit, you negotiate with the people who hold the power. So first of all, it builds on negotiating, raising awareness of the injustices that exist. And then once people realize the injustices that exist, they are able to disown them on their own without us telling them what to do. It is kind of an eye-opener. It promotes peer learning. It promotes joint planning, resource mobilization, and plan execution. And we have had to make some modifications even to some of the tools of the girls' methodology, because while it only focuses on, joint planning, joint resource mobilization, and plan and execution at household and community level, we realized there is need to attach some business sense to it, because you cannot say today we are going to learn gender, tomorrow we are going to learn business development. So we decided to get both of them together. So one of the tools in girls' methodology, the vision road journey, we have had to add figures to it, so that as they plan, as they make their projections and set milestones, they have a monetary cost attached to them, so that as they plan, they know the value of what they anticipate to get. So even as they make their planning activities, they attach a cost to them. So that we work with figures. Yeah, so like I said, basically it is a participatory process of barrier identification and disowning the practices that have hindered both men and women from achieving their full potential. Then, like I showed in the model, we have the rural transformation centers. In this case, we are working with Jeffina Honey. If we only build the capacity of beekeepers and employ the females to provide extension services without improving the capacity of community businesses to provide a reliable and sustainable market for the bee products, it would be, in my view, a total waste of effort and resources. There must be a market, and the market should not come from far. Experience has shown that beekeepers usually don't trust traders who come to them. We usually have traders from the city who go to communities and they say, we are buying honey. At the back of their minds, they feel these guys are city guys who are going to, exploit them. The prices they are giving them are not what they should get. But when they are working with a community business, so our job should be, how do we improve these community businesses so that they are run professionally, like businesses, they are registered, they have audited books of accounts, they achieve certification, their products are certified, which improved consumer confidence in their products, and then they are able to continue providing the market. So even when beekeepers need something like equipment, they are able to get them from the RTC. Or if there is any technical guidance that is needed, they can get it from the RTC. And, you know, in case of anything that comes up, beekeepers usually find it much easier to get to the RTC if that relationship has been built. So one of the things we wanted to do was to build that loyalty between the beekeepers and the RTC. So, and we realized it's only strong and sustainable businesses that can provide really good markets to beekeepers. So we had to tailor activities to this particular RTC. So in one of the photos, you can see the RTC is meeting the bee champions. So they sit and plan for their seasons. What do we expect to produce this season? How much do we need to prepare? Because once the RTC knows the projections from beekeepers, if they don't have sufficient capital, they are able to get a loan and prepare in advance. Because a beekeeper, once they get, they harvest honey, they expect their money the moment they deliver the honey. So the RTC should be in a position to pay cash on delivery. That can only happen if you have a good relationship with them. So, and Jeffina, the small photo in the middle shows the improvements that have been made by Jeffina Honey. As a result of this project, they have improved their processing facility. That is, their receiving area, you can see it is tiled. It basically meets the minimum quality standards for a honey processing unit. And as a result, they got the quality mark from the government body that basically certifies businesses. Then as a result also, Jeffina Honey has been able to recruit 2 new female staff. And of course, they have certified honey, which they never had before. So which is a plus to us. So what have we learned? We have learned that involvement and buy-in from men is a must if women are to benefit from beekeeping. We cannot afford to work in isolation. We must negotiate. And we also learned that women economic empowerment requires first understanding women's needs, their attitude, barriers, and preferences to determine the approaches to be used in training. Sometimes the women themselves don't know what they want because they have been indoctrinated. We know that is our way of life. We have accepted it and things must be done that way. So when you just come and tell them what you think is right for them, they'll be the very first people to refuse because their minds are set in a certain direction that is how things should be. So we need to understand what they need. And sometimes what you bring is not exactly what they want, or they don't actually realize that they need it. So you must show them that it is good for them and also change their attitudes. And for them to understand those barriers, then they will help the project to move forward. Then finally, apiary masters are a source of inspiration to other women. After the girls' training, one of the parents, gave land. The daughter had made beehives, and when she made the beehives, the gentleman refused. He said, I have my cows, you cannot put your beehives, they'll sting my cows. So after the girls' training, the man agreed to give land to the daughter to site the apiaries. And one of the reasons he gave was like, I realized actually I admired the girls who came to teach you. So they are not only an inspiration to the young girls, but also to the parents. Because once you see someone's daughter successful, you also want your daughter to do the same. So they are an inspiration to both. So thank you very much for the opportunity and for your time.
Thank you, Fiona. Really, really interesting. Thank you so much. There was a lot. You've covered a lot. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. So I think maybe if I could ask you, Fiona, to stop sharing. Great, great. So I think I, at this point, can invite any questions that people might have for Fiona, and maybe any points of clarification or any particular issues that we would like to hear more about. Thank you.
I think, Lorna, if you're there, I know you had some experience from your work with Metgi that you were keen to share. Would you like to do that now?
Hello, Lena. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Go ahead, Lorna.
I hope okay, our network is a bit disturbing, but thanks so much, Fiona, for that presentation. I think it's really great. And with me today, I have a colleague, God Mercy, who is going to share with us our intervention on beekeeping in the eastern part of Uganda. So I'll welcome God Mercy to introduce himself, and then he can share with us what we are doing as Metige in implementing beekeeping. Thank you so much. God Mercy, welcome.
Thank you, Lorna. Good evening, everyone. As Lorna said, my name is Kamende God Mercy. I am the Assistant Project Officer who's overseeing beekeeping in Mount Elgon Free Growing Enterprise. Mount Elgon Free Growing Enterprise.
God Mercy, we can't actually see your presentation. I don't know if you're sharing it. At the moment, we can just see the folder with the PowerPoint in it.
Sure, let me try to correct that.
Thank you.
Can you see it?
No, it's still on the folder. You might need to stop sharing and then reshare the screen with the presentation.
Maybe I could ask a question while Kamwende gets his presentation ready. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, Fiona. One of the things you touched on the issue about the land, and you gave an example. I guess that was much discussed in the workshop. What sort of what sort of reasons or what sort of negotiation, what sort of discussions were shared amongst the men and women about access to land for beekeeping?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so basically when the one of the tools in girls, the gender balance tree, best illustrates those imbalances, because usually you ask people to plot what women do at work, at home, or any other activity they do outside home, what the work they do that doesn't bring in income, then the work they do outside home that brings in income. Of course, most of them, they had little work that brings in income. Most of their work was centered around household work, which doesn't bring in income. And then the men, most of their work, they had little work in the middle, which shows the work the little work was on what they do that doesn't bring in income, like their contribution in household chores. Then their work also was outside what brings in income. But when we came up to the branches, those are the roots. So when we came up to the branches, it showed most of the assets were owned really the important assets, they were plotted on the side of the men. And then the women, they owned their own dresses, plates, cups, and all, the insignificant things. So then at the end of it all, you ask them, look at the roots, look at the work that the women do, and then look at the branches, who owns most of the assets? And, that is when some reflection starts to happen. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. This tree is, first of all, it is not balanced. You find it is leaning towards one side, the one who holds the cattle, the land, the house, the goats, everything is on the man's side. Then the woman has only her dresses and a few spoons and cups. So you're like, but they also contribute, much as it doesn't bring in income, it contributes to the well-being of the home. So if you find the ownership is tilted to one side, then I think it is fair to the person who is working down in the roots. So that usually becomes the point of reflection for most of them. And that is, I don't know, out of emotion or out of realizing the unfairness, that is when people start making declarations and they are willing to work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Phionah. Good. Okay, so I think we can, really interesting to hear from Kamwendi Godmercy. So go ahead.
Yes, hope you're seeing my presentation, right?
Yes, but just hit slideshow and then we can see it in full.
Mount Elgon Free Growing Enterprise. It's an NGO supported by Welsh government through Size of Wales. That is a charity in Wales. Our core mandate is growing of indigenous trees, trees which can work with crops, that is agroforestry trees. We operate in 7 districts of Eastern Uganda, that is Mbale, Bududa, Sirongo, Manafa, Bulambuli, Namisimbo, and Ukedia. We have 4 implementing partners through which we implement our activities. We have BRDC, which is Vungo Rural Development Center. We have SAO. We have Salem Brotherhood. We have Mount Elgon Agroforestry Community Cooperative Enterprise. We have specific objectives. As I said, our core mandate is growing of trees. We have community-based nurseries where we raise tree seedlings and supply freely to communities. We encourage people in the Mount Elgon region to grow agroforestry trees. As everyone can be aware, Elgon region and Uganda in general, we are agriculturists. We depend on agriculture. So we encourage the growing of trees that can go hand in hand with crops. Specifically here, about beekeeping, we provide advisory services to the farmers. Of course, these trees, a tree will take 5 years plus to mature. But now before it matures, how will the farmer be surviving? Of course, we looked at beekeeping as alternative livelihood activity that can go hand in hand with the trees. We provide trainings and some small inputs, material support as demonstrations to these beekeepers. We encourage farmers to do beekeeping as a business. We also have other interventions we construct Lorena stoves, energy-saving stoves, to the tree-growing communities. Here we are trying to reduce the amount of firewood, the amount of trees that are cut for firewood. These Lorena stoves use less firewood. Actually, 2 pieces, 3 pieces can cook food for the whole family. So we encourage these tree-growing communities to have these energy-saving stoves. We have another intervention, sustainable land management. Mount Elgon, when you look at Mount Elgon, it is a hill area. Of course, when maybe rains come, most soils are swept off. So we train these farmers on how they can sustainably manage their lands. Currently, we have another intervention, the Gender and Climate Justice Project. This is being implemented in one of the sub-counties in Mbale called Bushende. We are working with women groups. These are purely women groups. They are involved in many activities, ranging from tree planting, beekeeping, and poultry, goat rearing, and other activities. But specifically here, I will need us to look at beekeeping. How has beekeeping developed these women? Of course, as I said, the overall objective of beekeeping under tree planting is to improve the livelihood of women, youth, and other vulnerable groups. The status of beekeeping at Mount Elgon Tree Growing Enterprise, we currently have 27 beekeeping groups that are spread in 5 districts. This time, not 7, as I mentioned. The 27 groups are in 5 districts. They have a membership of 786, out of which 568 are women, which represents 72%, meaning women are more than men. The 10 groups are purely women-led. They are led by women out of this 27 groups. Under the Climate Justice Project, 10 women groups are recruited and 3 are supported under beekeeping. Of course, as I said, others are in poultry, goat rearing, but specifically here, 3 groups are supported under beekeeping in that project. The total number of hives these groups own are 1,379, out of which 1,130 are colonizing. That represents 81% colonization rate. Last year alone, these groups managed to collect 1,886 kilograms of honey. And the products so far harvested by these groups, of course, there are many products out of beekeeping, as Phionah can highlight. We have honey, we have beeswax, we have bee venom, we have pollen, we have royal jelly, but specifically here, 3 products so far can be harvested. That is honey, beeswax, and propolis.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'll just give you another 2 minutes, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you.
To leave enough time for questions. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Now, what is the experience of working with women? The first experience is during training. Women turn up in a very good number. They come for trainings generally. they embrace trainings. And in these trainings, we have realized some cultural beliefs have been dropped. In Mount Elgon here, and in Africa in general, actually, women are not supposed to climb trees. But with the trainings we are giving them, a hive, for example, a hive is supposed to be sited at the waist level, So that means that one avoids the belief that women cannot practice beekeeping because they are not supposed to climb trees, as contrary to the cultural beliefs before, where people used to site hives in trees, up in trees. So at this time, women are siting hives at waist level, so anybody can practice beekeeping. At the moment, women can now do harvesting and inspection activities. Actually, at first, they had a lot of phobia. They used to fear bees. But with the training and the practice they are doing, at least now women can harvest. They can harvest honey, they can do inspection activities. With this, there's a challenge. However much women are men in these groups, but still men do some of the activity. I mean, most of the activities actually, like hive installation, because hive installation involves cutting logs and apiary hygiene, slashing. They are being assisted by women. As you can see in the photos, that is a woman. We are training them on how to process beeswax out of the combs. After removing the honey, most people used to throw out the combs, but now women here can now harvest, process beeswax. The women you are seeing there in bee shoots, these are women. They were doing inspection, and at the moment they no longer have the phobia for bees. We do have other special trainings. The first training we had a training of carpenters. At first we used to buy hives. Beekeeping groups used to buy hives far from the Mount Elgon region. They used to buy them from Kampala and other areas. But now here we have trained carpenters. We have trained 12 carpenters that represent individual groups, so that maybe if a group needs hives, so this carpenter can make for them hives at an affordable price. We have also trained tailors on how to make bee shoots. And out of these tailors, actually the highest number, they were women. And I can happily say they have started helping the groups in making for them bee shoots. Of course, as you know, a bee shoot is a must equipment. It is a must equipment for any beekeeper, especially here in Africa, where we keep African honeybee race called Apis mellifera. It is aggressive.
Thank you. I think we need to move on to the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have one more slide?
Just one, but it was the last one. Just the challenges we have as beekeepers in the Mount Elgon region. Most of the hives are sited in national parks.
So these challenges are across sectional. They're not specifically gender-based challenges, or are they cross sectional?
Yeah, they are cutting across.
Cutting across, yes, cross cutting.
Yes. The first one is theft and vandalism, especially to those hives which are sited in national parks. Of course, at first we had a local organization that this was just because of less intervals of inspection, because women used to fear bees. But now that the bee shoots are now made within the region, at least this challenge is reducing a bit. Mount Elgon being a highly populated region, we still have limited space for siting beehives. As you know, a beehive is supposed to be sited 100 meters away from human dwellings. Actually, we still have this challenge. And the other challenge is unorganized markets. But I'm happy to meet Phionah from TUNADO. I'm sure we are going to work on this. We shall see how TUNADO can connect our farmers to viable markets.
That's great.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. So that's really great to hear about your work in a different part of Uganda. Thank you. So we've got about, I think, about 7 minutes. So I think we've let's see what questions people might have for Phionah or for Kamwende. Thank you.
Can I ask one?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
I don't want to. Thanks very much. It's interesting from Mount Elgon, and interesting that you mentioned the unorganized markets challenge that the project faces. I'm particularly interested, Phionah, with Jafina Honey being a female-led organization that's involved in processing or buying, processing, and marketing the honey for the female beekeepers, trainee beekeepers. I'm just wondering how important you feel that is, that the women beekeepers are dealing with women buyers and processors of their products. Is that important for them?
Yes, because there is this general feeling or common thinking that women are more genuine by markets. They will not reduce the price. The price they set is what it is. And the fact that it is a community business, it is not situated locally within the community. They do not change prices as and when they feel like. If they set a price, let's say at 8,000 per kilo, that is it. Someone will not, beekeepers will not bring a lot of honey and then they say, no, now we are buying 5,000. No, that is the price. And if there are any rejections, they clearly show you the reasons why the honey has been rejected, and it is on technical grounds, not because someone is trying to cheat. So they easily trust each other more. And once, even the bee champion, you have given them money to buy for you honey, there is a higher chance of them delivering the same honey equivalent to the money you gave them. There are less chances of it being diverted.
Interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. That is interesting. Yes. Particularly about the feedback, giving the feedback to the beekeeper about if there are any quality issues on technical grounds. That's really important. Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question for Phionah.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear about the RTC Rural Transformation Center. I think it is a good approach that you can also employ here. I wanted to ask Phionah, how is that organized? Does it belong to farmers? How do you organize a rural transformation center? How can it be formed generally? That's the question.
Thank you so much. Basically, a rural transformation center is an umbrella name we gave to businesses that take different shapes and forms, because we have so many people. They are private companies that process honey. We have cooperatives that process honey. We have associations that process honey. So we wanted one name that would encompass all of those. So, for example, Jeffina Honey is a private company. It is owned by a lady called Josephine Mamawi. So our job has been to improve her capacity so that the business, she's detached from the business, the running of the business. She remains the owner, but the business is more formal and more sustainable. So we also have cooperatives. So still we improve their capacity to provide market. So they are owned by TUNADO members. And I think in Eastern region, we have done preliminary assessment of, for example, Mbale Coffee and Honey Cooperative. So that is one candidate for an RTC. So that is one that we want to groom to become into an RTC for that region. So if you need to learn more about the RTC model, we have an Apiculture multi-stakeholder platform on the 7th of December. So it would be good for you to understand, not to attend, then you learn from other RTCs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phionah.
Can you send them an invitation, Phionah? Sorry, just jumping in.
Yeah, it is an invitation.
Thank you. Well, I think we've got one more minute. I don't know if we can squeeze in another question, or perhaps it's time to any other last minute, very, very quick things.
I have a question if no one else is. Just about the male participants in the project. Do you feel that's something that just had to be part of the project because it was important that it's still possible to implement the project, because you, as you mentioned, it was not you were aiming actually to do it with just women, but it just seemed impossible because there's so much control and power still in the hands of men. Do you think that the way you did it now is that kind of the way to do it for now? Do you think that's going to something you're aiming to change in the future if you would do it, if you would continue the work, or how did kind of what are you taking from this working with these men, and were they actually supportive of the project as well, and do you feel like they could also advocate for the project? Maybe there's something you can say about that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the involvement of men definitely adds value to the project, because you can teach a woman to keep beehives. When it is time to make beehives, when it is time to site them, the man will say, take them to your father's land, not on my land. So then all your effort is wasted, because we have had instances where that has happened. So yes, women are in an ecosystem where men are involved. So everyone must be involved, and they appreciate the contribution of everyone if we are ready to achieve sustainable development. Otherwise, if you focus only on the women, it kind of puts them against the men, and somehow then they fight back. They say, you have come. There is one experience, not within this project, where the men felt that the project had come to make the women less manageable, that they were going to become disrespectful. You're going to teach our wives, first of all, to put on trousers, and once they start earning money, they'll no longer listen to us. So you want the men to buy into the project and be supportive of the women. So yes, I think it is important for them to participate as well.
Thank you, Phionah. That's a really strong lesson that I think we can end with today. So I think I just want to say again, thank you very much to Phionah on behalf of TUNADO to give the presentation today. And thank you also to Kamwende from Metige as well. That was also a really nice contribution. So thank you.